Cale Yarborough up compared to all the people that I worked with from the Homo Moody days on. There wasn't no human like him to work with. He didn't want to. He was not going to tell you how to build an engine. He wasn't going to tell you how to set up a race car. He just wanted to drive it.
Yep.
And then, like I said, he'd tell me, just don't do anything to slow it down. And if you don't want me to use it, don't give it to me. But he was a prince to work with. You knew, and the next thing you knew, he was going to give it everything he had.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to be out there loafing. He's going to be out there going as hard as it'd go.
It's funny you say that. So we were walking into the racetrack, me and my dad, it's either 83 or 84, and it was actually Michigan. And we ran into Dan Ford. And you know how Dad was. He goes, well, Dan, how are we running? He said, Harry, he's driving it like he ain't got money to go home. That's what he said. He said he's driving it like he ain't got money to get home.
Well, he acted like that his whole life. Cale's tight as a banjo string. You know what I mean? And I commend him for it, but he didn't. He probably didn't come from a whole lot, and then he saved and.
Well, tight as a banjo string. I want to ask Jamie. Working for him.
Yeah.
Was he that way? I mean, good or bad?
Oh, he was. We would have bologna and tomato sandwiches in his motel room, and he would tell stories. Mm-hmm. And we all thought that was cool, but I know that was in his budget. That's why he didn't want to take us to Park Seafood or wherever in Daytona. We were going to sit in that room and have sandwiches. And, I mean, he would do cookouts before Darlington and fish fries and, I know he didn't have much of a budget for taking us to fancy places, and I got a funny story about that. We were in Sonoma, and we'd just gotten a new crew chief. Ken Glenn came from Roush, and we went to some fancy place. Cale wasn't there. He said, boys, you eat, drink, anything you want, and we followed orders. We ate, and the bill comes, and he turned white, and he says, I can't turn this into Cale. And we didn't have much money. So we had to take about all the money that we had carried for the trip to pony up to pay that bill because he didn't want to turn that bill into Cale Yarborough.
That's the truth right there.
And, you
talk about his fish fries?
Yeah.
So we played the guitars. Me and my buddy David Petty would go with me, and me and Barry to the races and stuff, and we'd play the guitars in the hotel at night. Well, Cale staying in the hotel with us, he's like, y'all playing the guitars? Yeah, so we guitar and banjo, and we play and sing. So it's Talladega. He said, we're going to play music tonight. Yeah. So he said, well, get back to the hotel. I'll take you and David. We'll go get us something to eat and come back and play music. And everybody's like, Cale's taking y'all to eat? And we went to a fish place because Cale was a master of getting somebody else to buy, That's how much he loved music. And we'd go eat, went to eat, come back, stopped and got 2 or 3 cases of Bud Light, filled the bathtub up with ice and Bud Light in the hotel room. Ron Bouchard was in the room. Everybody was come by the room, leave the doors open. This is when you motel. You drive your car up to Talladega. 2 o'clock in the morning, Cale's sitting there drinking them Bud Lights, singing to the top of his head, singing I'll Fly Away, and his favorite song was I Want to Hire a Wino to Decorate My Home. Y'all do that one for me. Y'all do that one. And he loved, I don't know if people know how much he loved old-time music like that and singing. And then he invited me and David to come to the fish fry when we run the Southern 500 and play at his dealership. So we played back there where the lifts and all that were, had fish fry, and he sat there and sang all night and then won the Southern 500 the next day.
And he had cheap entertainment with you, right?
Yeah, it was free. He said, I'll buy y'all the beer, and we got the fish. Y'all come? We said, we'll be there. And then that night we went out after the Southern 500 and went back out to his house, and we played some more. Yeah, he loved singing and like that, but nobody knew it. But he's the ringleader. He wanted to be right in the middle. Y'all play this, y'all play that, and he loved the old songs like that. People don't know that about him.
1987 Winston 500 at Talladega. Bill Elliott sat on the pole that day with a speed of 212.809 miles an hour, the fastest qualifying lap in NASCAR history. Bobby Allison started second that day after putting up a speed of 211.797 miles an hour. Things were going well that day, right up until this.
Trouble as Allison shreds the right rear tire. The car gets up in the air and crashes down onto the asphalt right at the start-finish line. Caution waves immediately by Harold Kinder up on the flag stand, and everybody misses Allison's car. Phil Parsons, Alan Kulwicki, and Richard Petty tangle and collide coming past the caution flag, and Parsons' car slides into Allison's motionless machine.
Now Cale Yarborough and Ron Bouchard get together further down the racetrack, entering turn number 1. They will spin out of the everybody's way towards the apron of the racetrack.
A hard crash for Bobby Allison. The car just literally demolished as it slammed into the concrete wall short of the start-finish line. Allison's car has come to rest down toward turn 1. As the field gets through, the emergency crews attend to Allison immediately. Again, the cars involved. Richard Petty got a piece of that. So did Phil Parsons. Bobby Allison coming out the worst of it as he slammed into the wall here. Now the emergency crews are there. And, Mike, there were a couple other cars there also.
Phil Parsons had a piece of it. He was the car that got hit twice. That car came down and spun with Richard Petty and I believe Ken Schrader, and then got into Allison's car, which was just stopped in the middle of the front straightaway. Barney, it looked from here as if Allison cut down a right rear tire. Dale Earnhardt was drafting behind but avoided contact, and then Allison's car got airborne and flew through the air along the straightaway here near the start-finish line. It came down to rest and flipped on the asphalt, finally landing midpoint in the front straightaway. Allison is out of the car. He is okay.
Mike, it did happen exactly that way. It was right straight in front of me. I was looking right at the car, and it popped. The right rear tire just disintegrated, and the car turned sideways. He did fairly good for a minute, and then it started getting airborne, and from then on, it's history.
Allison is okay. He's walking over to the ambulance unaided. He'll get the mandatory trip to the care center. And due to damage to the catch fencing newly installed for this race along the entire front straightaway, the race will be halted under the red flag. The cars will be stopped out on the backstretch, and we will have a delay here while the fencing is repaired along this front straightaway.
According to Bobby, here's what happened.
You know, I was proud of the fact that I was when Elliott was on the pole at 212, I was on the outside pole in a Buick at 211. And I was pretty proud of that. Our equipment was good. Our car was fast. And with the drafting the way it is at Talladega, I got to shuffle and was back in the pack, 4th or 5th or somewhere back there in the lineup, but running good and happy with the car. And my engine blew up. And my engine blew up so bad that a big piece of my crankshaft came out of the car and went under the car, and I ran over it with the right rear tire. That's what jumped the car up into the air and also blew the tire out while that was happening. But that jumped the car up in the air and made it spin around and completely out of control, went into the fencing and tore all the catch fence down. And it was quite a ride. You know, I really hung on, but I didn't get hurt any in that. You know, I didn't even get bounced around bad. Just hung on good, and the car was built good. And it finally came to rest, but because of the violence of the crash, my dry sump oil tank had gotten broken, and I had oil all over me and in my face and inside my goggles, outside my goggles, and so I couldn't see.
Yeah.
And so when the safety crew got there, they realized that I wasn't hurt any, but I had to go to the infield care center to get checked out, and they put me in the ambulance and took me the long way around the racetrack. You know, and I asked the guy, I said, how many people are hurt back there? He said, don't worry about it, nobody's hurt. And I thought, well, you know, they're taking me this way, so I don't see what a mess it is back there. And it took me a long way, and we got to the infield care center, and Dr. Hardwick came out there and said, shut the helicopters off, folks, we don't need them. And that was good news to me, because if I didn't need it, that meant nobody else needed one either. So I was at least happy about that.
Bobby was okay. The fans in the grandstands were okay. And that was that for Bobby Allison that day. Or was it?
When I came out of the care center after my crash, I told Judy, let's go home. And she said, no, we're staying. We're going to stay here and support Davey. And it probably was the best directive she ever gave me.
Directive. That's a good word for it.
Yeah, I tried to think of really the right description. You know, it was definitely was an order. But we stayed, and I was really pleased that we did. And we got to go to Victory Lane and celebrate with them when that race was over. And it was so special. You know, Davey had already won there with ARCA, but was his first NASCAR Cup win of his career, and for it to be there at Talladega at what was our home track and all of the things that you can say, it was really special.
The 1987 Winston 500 at Talladega was the ultimate case of good news, bad news for the Allison family. But then came the 1988 Daytona 500, Bobby's third win in that event. This time, however, his son Davey was right there, trying to chase him down.
Here's Allison, white flag as he flashes across the start-finish line. Bobby Allison takes him back to turn one. Davey Allison rides right behind him. They've opened a little daylight from third on back. Bobby Allison shows the way on the final lap down into turn number one. His son Davey about a car length back as they lead the pack of 7 cars for the last time off the banking of turn two. Bobby Allison trying to hit the triple here at Daytona this week. A winner Thursday, a winner yesterday, trying for 3 straight. He's a car and a half ahead of his son Davey Allison. Third is Phil Parsons. Fourth is Terry Labonte. Here's Bonnet bidding for fourth. Bonnet makes the move around into the 4th place position. Still, Bobby Allison, your leader. There's Davey Allison to the bottom of the racetrack. Davey Allison tries it on the inside.
One last try for Davey Allison, but he has to tuck back in line just behind his dad, who was a twice winner of the Daytona 500. Bobby Allison wins it for the 3rd time in his career. Right behind him was Davey Allison. Holding on to a tight 3rd place battle was Phil Parsons with Terry Labonte and Neil Bonnet. What a finish as the Alabama gang, Bobby and Davey Allison, take positions 1 and 2. It was quite a finish.
Davey wanted that race more than any other he had ever run or ever would run. Still, he came up just a little bit short.
Right now, let's go down to pit road and Dick Brooks.
Well, the other Allison, I guess. The other day we talked about it going the other way, and if you would beat him if you had a chance, and today you tried.
Yeah, Dick, I tried as hard as I could, but this Ford with this restrictor plate just seems to be a little bit down on power, and Dad's engine was really strong, but he drove a heck of a race. You know, he was tough all day long, and we got behind early, and we caught back up, and we made a run at him, but we did the best we could do, and that was second.
Davey, you've probably been asked this a lot, and you're going to get asked a lot more. Just how hard would you try to beat him?
I used everything I had.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you did. Well, that's Davey. He's looking in pretty good shape. I tell you, this hasn't been a long time since you run a race like that.
Yeah, you know, when I was a kid, I used to dream of a 1-2 finish, but I dreamed about it being the other way, and you know, that was a tough race, and got to hand it to Dad. He drove a good race, but this Haviland Star Thunderbird's going to be tough for the rest of this year.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. That's Davey.